Joining me on our panel of politicians this morning, the Parliamentary Secretary for Employment, Jason Clare. Good morning.
G'day, Ashley.
And from Brisbane this morning, joining us, the Shadow Parliamentary Secretary for Defence, Stuart Robert. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Ashley. Jason, how are you?
G'day, mate.
I do want to start on the work choices attacks we've seen over the last couple of days. Jason, by dredging up this again, people could perhaps be sceptical. Like the Coalition says, is this just a scare campaign?
Well, I haven't put the words in Tony Abbott's mouth. He's the one who was caught out on Friday night making a speech in Queensland where he said he'd bring back the most hated parts of work choices. He'd bring back Australian workplace agreements. They were responsible for some people earning up to $8,000 less a year than people on enterprise agreements. He's also said that he would get rid of unfair dismissal protections. That'd mean up to 2 million Australians could be sacked unfairly. And now today in the newspaper we learn that in some cases they would get rid of penalty rates. Now, for a lot of people, a lot of young people who work in hospitality, a lot of working families, they rely on penalty rates to make ends meet. The only thing he said he won't bring back is the name. Well, it wasn't the name that hurt people, it was the nature of work choices. It hurt a lot of people, and all of the evidence that we're seeing is every time Tony Abbott opens his mouth, he promises to bring another part of work choices back.
Stuart Robert, let's go through some of those key changes that we just heard Jason Clare outline then. Firstly, the unfair dismissal laws. The Australian's reporting today that the Coalition is expected to exempt small businesses with fewer than 20 employees. Now, this isn't a new idea. This is something the Coalition has been arguing for a while, so that wouldn't come as a surprise if it does end up being part of your policy.
Well, Ashley, Jason will try and tell us that the sky is once again falling in. Work choices is dead. It's buried. I was there when the tombstone was erected. We're not bringing it back. Yes, we'll release an industrial relations policy shortly that'll be fully costed and simple, and the Australian people will be able to make their own judgments. However, our track record shows that we employed over 2 million new Australians. We increased real wages by 20%. Compare that to what Labor's now done, where you've got aged care workers now $300 worse off. I've got a meter reader in my own electorate, Peter, who's $173 worse off under Labor's regime. If we compare track records to what we've done compared to the debacle of what Labor has done, I think it's pretty clear which is the better approach.
But Stuart Robert, it is fair to say that the Coalition is looking at shaking up these laws when it comes to unfair dismissal laws, penalty rates and also statutory agreements.
Well, Tony Abbott's made it clear that we'll release an industrial relations policy that will provide some more flexibility, and that will be released at due course. But the scaremongering, the work choices, those types of things is not helpful. I mean, Jason needs to put his big orange signs back in the garage. The ACTU needs to find something else to campaign on, because work choices will not be part of a platform. It is absolutely and utterly dead and buried, and Labor have got to stop trying to raise the dead on this.
Well, Ashley, we'll put the signs in the garage if Stuart will answer the question, but you asked him twice there, what will you do on unfair dismissal? Wouldn't answer the question. What will you do on penalty rates? Won't answer the question. When you pick up the newspaper, it says that companies with less than 20 employees would be exempt from unfair dismissal. That means that up to 2 million Australians could be sacked unfairly. The newspaper also says penalty rates are gone. That'll hurt a lot of people. So if work choices is dead, it must be a zombie, because every time you open the newspaper it looks like they're bringing it back to life.
And of course we are in a tricky position here, and so is Stuart Robert, because as Jason Clare points out, Tony Abbott is yet to unveil this IR policy, so we are going to have to wait for all the details before we can start comparing the two different schemes. But Jason Clare, under your scheme, some people have been left worse off, haven't they?
No, let me deal with this issue which Stuart just raised. In all of those circumstances, people are entitled to seek a take-home pay order from Fair Work Australia. That's enshrined in the legislation. When we put this in the legislation, the opposition supported it. They congratulated and thanked the government for it. Stuart actually voted for it. So these take-home pay orders make sure that nobody is worse off under award modernisation. People were a lot worse off under work choices. Up to 1 million Australians lost about $90 a week in real wages. And what we're hearing today, whether they deny it or not, is that the substance of work choices is coming back, and that'll mean that a lot of workers will be worse off.
Well, David Spears is planning to speak with the Liberals spokesperson on this, Eric Abetz, a bit later on this afternoon, so we will try and grill him for some more details at 4:15 this afternoon. On another issue around today, Stuart, today a Senate committee in Melbourne is going to be putting the insulation row back on the top of the agenda. I guess coalition senators are preparing to do a pretty forensic grilling there today as they talk to key stakeholders. What do you expect might be uncovered there today?
Well, what we know already, Ashley, is this Garrett's insulation program is a complete and utter unmitigated disaster, and the Prime Minister needs to step in urgently. The facts as we know them, the program is $1 billion over budget. We know that at least 1,000 roofs are electrified right now, they're death traps. We know that there are 4 young Australians whose lives have ended in tragic circumstances. We know that about 1,000 inspections of houses have been done in the last 3 months. So at the government's current pace, it'll take 12 years to finish inspection of houses. We know that on the 25th of January, so last month, Peter Garrett secretly ended the PwC contract to do the safety inspections without having any other plan in place, leaving Australians with nowhere to go except to use private electricians. This whole program is an absolute and utter disaster.
Jason, is Peter Garrett's job really as safe as Labor ministers would have us believe? He's on pretty shaky ground here, isn't he?
No, I think when you have a look at what Peter Garrett said in the Parliament last week, the evidence speaks for itself. These are terrible tragedies. Whenever anybody dies in the workplace, it's a terrible tragedy and should be treated very seriously. Last year, more than 300 people died in the workplace and more than 138,000 people suffered a serious injury. Let's take the politics out of it though and look at the evidence. And all of the evidence shows that wherever a safety concern or an issue about training was brought to the Minister's attention, that he responded to that. When those safety issues were first raised in the first half of last year, the Minister's response was to introduce a scheme that was above the Australian safety standard and above the business code. And he also introduced, he also introduced a national training program. Before Peter was the Minister, there wasn't a national training program for insulation at all. He introduced that.
So you're convinced that today in this hearing we won't hear any new evidence